Get taxes over with now on your IRAs or 401ks. In this episode, I'm going to address the question, what is the best thing I can do with my money during a recession? So my name's Doug Andrew, and get ready, put your seatbelt on, because I'm going to show you some opportunities you probably never even knew existed before. So my name's Doug Andrew, and what do I know? Well, I've been around the block now for 67 years. I've been a financial strategist, retirement planning specialist for more than 45 years. And I've lived through many recessions. And I learned some valuable lessons, and I don't want you to make the same mistakes that maybe I made or that many people have made. In fact, helping people avoid losses during the downturns in the market, but also take advantage of the upswing on a tax-free basis has helped so many people gain peace and contentment and actually accumulate tremendous amounts of wealth. So I'm going to share with you sort of my stories of not maybe the 1980 recession. Yep, I remember that one. And the one that I'll never forget is what we call the Great Recession. So if it's feeling, as you're watching this, a little bit like the Great Recession, listen close, because I'm going to give you a story about what happened from the year 2000 to 2012, and how many of our clients more than tripled their money during that 12-year period when most Americans didn't make anything at the end of the day. So when we go through an economic recession, what do most people do? They hunker down, they almost get paralyzed, and somehow most people get into this mentality, golly, I've just got to wait now till the market comes back before I do anything. No, there's opportunity here when the market is down. So let me share with you a story of what took place with many of our clients from the worst decade since the Great Depression. It was actually a 12-year period that we're talking about from the year 2000 to 2012. Now, if you remember, things were going pretty well at the turn of the century, but September 11th, 2001, two planes flew into two skyscrapers in New York City, and guess what's happening? People stopped going out to dinner, they stopped flying and so forth, and this is what happens when we have pandemics, terrorist attacks, natural disasters. And so when people get paralyzed, they just aren't thinking about the opportunities they ought to seize during that time period. So what happened in 2001 is people stopped buying and selling and traveling, and sure enough, the market dropped 3 consecutive years. That's very rare. Usually in a 10-year period, you'll have 7 up years compared to only 3 down years. And during that decade from 2000 to 2010, we had 5 down years, only 5 up years. So the sad thing is, a lot of people lost 40% or more in the value of their life savings, their IRAs or 401ks, in that 3-year period from 2001 to 2003. So let's use an example. Let's say that you had saved $1 million by the time the turn of the century, 2000, had happened, and without adding a dime, you see that $1 million nest egg dwindle in value down to less than $600,000. 40% loss by 2003. How would you feel? This is where most people panicked and they sold at that low point. But some people then bought back in high, and that's why they don't average very much money, because they're buying and selling at the wrong time. They don't average a very good rate of return on their money. Well, it took 4 years for the market to come back, because a 40% loss has to be followed by a 67% gain just to get back to break even. $1 million down to $600,000. $600,000 now has to grow by $400,000, 2/3 of that, to get back a loss of 40%. A lot of people don't understand that math. It took until 2007 to get back to break even. Many about to retire people back then felt like they had lost their future in 2001. They had to put off retirement 7 years. And then what happened in 2008? So as Warren Buffett put it, when the tide went out in 2008, it revealed who was swimming naked, is what he said. Now, what did he mean? A lot of people thought that they were okay, but they actually didn't have safety nets on their money. And one of the things that Warren Buffett always taught is number one rule, don't lose money. But rule number two was don't forget rule number one. Sometimes people don't think about this until it's too late and they've suffered a tremendous loss on their accounts. So for the second time in a decade, in 2008, in one single year, most Americans saw their nest eggs go down another 40%. The million went down to 600,000. Now, do you know it took 4 more years again to get back to break even in 2012? So most Americans that had $1 million in 2000 saw it go down to 600,000 and then back up to $1 million in 2000, down to 600,000 again, and barely back up to break even again after 12 years. That's why we call it the lost decade. It was actually 12 years. Here's the key. During that same 12-year period, many of our clients using what I call the laser fund with indexing strategies tripled their money tax-free. If they started out with $1 million, they had $3 million by the year 2012 when most Americans were barely back to break even. And it actually wasn't break even because inflation during that 12-year period had caused that $1 million people were back to couldn't even buy what $1 million bought back in 2000. So it was really only worth maybe 700,000 or 800,000. Folks, you need to understand indexing and how not to lose when the market goes down. But here is another critical key. In 2001 to 2003, in 2008, I advised many people who were not clients yet, when the market was down, to get their money out, sell. And they go, wait a minute, most advisors are saying, hang in there, because the market always comes back. And I'm telling people, sell. Why? Because I wanted them to get the taxes over and done with when their account values were only 600,000, not wait around until it goes back up to $1 million again, because we got the taxes over with and we repositioned the after-tax money into a laser fund, and they were able to ride the market back up again tax-free. Folks, this is an incredible opportunity to get taxes over and done with on 600,000 instead of $1 million in this example. Hello? And then ride the market back up again tax-free, because we all know taxes will likely be higher in the future. Why? Do we want to postpone tax to some future perceived unknown advantage in an IRA or 401k when most of us know that taxes will likely be higher in the future because of irresponsible government spending and printing of money and initiatives that the government has to constantly spend dollars on? So why do we want to postpone that tax and let our account grow back to this and then pay tax on this much when tax rates are likely going to be higher? That doesn't make sense. I want you to click on this episode here, and you will understand how the laser fund can help protect you from the dangers of taxes, inflation, and market volatility, so you're protected the next time and you can seize the right opportunities.